Yeah, everyone heard that. Yeah, if you want me to do it after two.
Well, I know we have 2 more coming. I'm counting, so. So you all let me know when we get to, what? What do we need? 50 shekels? If you're doing 5s? The book thing is a mystery. That's definitely a mystery.
My guess is they use tables.
What would they use the tables for? We had no, we had the books were back there last night.
This is a plan, either.
Was it? All right. Well, let me get this out so that I can actually see what we're doing here. Always helps. Because it's a little different. Sunday. What's today? Monday. Hey, it's Monday. We're not counting the Omer. Let me know. All right. Oop, not day 2. How about day 1? This is the craziest luach ever. Oh, right, great. At the end of the preliminary service, just saying Ha'el. Okay, that's really helpful. This helps 0. It helps 0. For psuke, it helps 0.
There's nothing to change.
Well, there is if you're doing Psalms for Shabbat and you're adding whatever and you're.
Between 113 and 119.
Yeah, I know. This book doesn't. Thank you. That's helpful. This book doesn't help. All right. Well, we begin this morning bright and early, and not so bright because it's actually very, very dark out. But hey, if we were in harvest time, it's good to have some rain, right? Isn't that like a positive thing? Yeah. Okay. So we'll look on the bright side. So 103, you'll find Birkot HaShachar as we begin this morning. We rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan לנו בינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asirim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechim letzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasali kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam anoten la'yaev koach. May be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'ma'aver shena menayim me'apafar. Hutneinu hayom uv'chol yom lachem l'chased harachamim be'enei v'chol ro'enu v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. 105 le'olam yeh adam yirei shamayim v'seiter v'galui u'modeh al ha'emet v'dover emet bilbavo v'yeshkem v'yomar. Ashreinu ma tov chalkenu mana'im gorelenu ma yafa yerushatenu. Ashreinu shanachnu mashkimim u'marivim erev voker v'yomrim pamayim bechol yom. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Atahu Ad Shelo Nivra Olam Atahu Shenivra Olam. Kadesh et shimcha makdishei shemecha v'kadesh et shimcha be'olamecha u'vishuatcha tarim v'tagbia karnenu baruch ata Adonai mekadesh et shimcha barabim. If you'll turn over, you'll see page 107 and forward. We have passages for study where we generally take a moment to look at a Talmudic or usually a Talmudic passage of some kind, or Mishnah. And on 108, we find one that is certainly was Pirkei Avot from the Mishnah, and it talks about Torah appropriately, since this is our holiday of Torah. Gedolah Torah yoter min ha-kehuna umin ha-malchut. Torah is greater than the priesthood or the royalty, for kingship is acquired through 30 qualities. So in other words, how do we know that Torah is greater than everything? Well, the rabbis in number 30 qualities that it takes to be a king, and a priesthood requires 24. But if you look at Torah, well, that surpasses all of them. It takes 48 different qualities. And if you see the list, which we'll not go over, it is a long list. But what the message from the rabbis is, of course, is that Torah is an ongoing and enduring process. It's not just something you gain by momentary get an A on an exam in your religious school class. It is something that is completely ongoing, a process, and something that lasts forever. Because all of these qualities, as you see, 48 qualities, takes a long time for us to cultivate, and certainly they are the ideal qualities that we need. Those are the things, in essence, we are striving to do in order to really acquire an ear for Torah, to acquire an understanding of what Torah really can be in our lives. So this is the rabbi's way of saying, keep studying for your whole life and work through these qualities. Work for all of them in the sense that you can achieve them. And also in that study, these qualities are acquired, right? This is how we acquire Torah. Torah acquires us, in essence, through these qualities. So keep that in mind as we turn over to page 110, the top paragraph under the Aleph on the half page. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'lahevotenu v'imotenu shetiten chalkenu b'toratecha v'nihiyeh mitamidav shel Aharon hakohen ohev shalom v'rodef shalom ohev et habriot u'mekarvan laTorah. As we don't quite yet have a minyan for Kaddish D'Rabbanan, we recite the last two verses of the Kaddish on 111. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Tovim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu B'rachamav Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru Amen. We turn over, not to page 112, because that is for Shabbat, but we turn over to, there it is, 117. Our special psalm for Shavuot, Psalm 119, selected verses from it. LaShavuot. Hayom Chag HaShavuot, Shebo Homrim, Ashrei T'mimei Tzarech, Ochim Torat Adonai, Baruch Atah Adonai, Kechaz. Shalom Rab lo have Toratecha v'yein lamo michshol techi nafshi utechalalecha umishpatecha yazruni. We turn over to 120. There you will find the 30th Psalm. Mizmor Shir Chanukata Bayit LeDavid Amar Mimcha Lo Nakid Litani B'Solis V'Los Machtai Lo Bali. פתחת משפטי למחולי, פיתחת שקית עזרני שמחה, למען יזמר כבוד לו ולא ידום, אדוני אלוהי לעולם עודך. Once again, you'll find the last two lines of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 121. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. We rise page 122 for Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar V'haya Ha'olam Baruch Hu Baruch Oseh Bereshit Baruch Omer V'Oseh Baruch Ozerum Kayem Baruch Merachem Al Ha'aretz Baruch Merachem Al Habriot Baruch Meshalem Sechar Tov L'Reav Baruch Ad La'ad V'Kayam La'netzach Baruch Podeh U'Matzil Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Ha'el Ha'varachaman Hamulal B'fi Amo Mishubach U'Fa'ar B'Lshon Chasidav Avadav Uvshivrei David Avdecha Nehelelcha Adonai Eloheinu Bishvachot V'Mizmerot Negadelcha U'Nshabecha U'Nfa'ercha V'Naskir Shimcha V'Namlichecha Malkinu Eloheinu Yachid Chei HaOlamim Melech Mishubach U'Fa'ar Adei Shemo HaGadol Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Mehulal Batishbachot. You are welcome to be seated. We turn over to 136 for Ashrei. Ashrei Ashrei Veitecha Yelalucha Selah Ashrei Am Shekacha Lo Ashrei Am Shadonai Lo Tila V'David Amin Korai Hashem Korai Vayim B'Chol Yamai V'Achak Kodesh Adonai Lam Focus is no Techla Yameru Hatacha Soprano Zechara Tukha Yitzchak. Tehilat Adonai Daber Pi Vivarech Basar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed V'Anachnu Nevarech Yam Etavi Ad Olam Hallelujah. 137. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Nafshi Et Adonai Achalala Adonai B'Chayai V'Samar L'Elahai Be'oti Al Titechu B'Vidim Shein Teshua Teshua Shrein V'Shalom. Adonai shomer et gerim yatom v'yamana yoded v'derech v'shayim ye'avet yim loch Adonai le'elam Elohech tzion l'dor v'dor. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Ki tov zamra Eloheinu ki na'im navati la bonei Yerushalayim Adonai nidchei Yisrael v'chanes. Shalochi Yerushalayim Adonai Eloheinu hayotzion. Magi devrav leYaakov chukav u'mishpatav leYisrael lo asachen lechol goyo mishpatim bal yidam. Hallelujah. 139. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Et Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelujah. Bam ramim. Hallelujah. Kol malachalo. Sava. Shemesh v'yareach. Hallelujah. Kol koch v'yor. Hallelujah. Shemesh shamayim. Hallelujah. Asher. Shamayim. Vayarem keren le'amo tehila lechol chasidav lifnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash tehila tov b'kol chasidim. We're on 140. Yismach Yisrael v'yosav v'netzion yagilu v'malkam yahalalu shemo v'machol v'tofachim olidim. Ki rotzeh Adonai v'yavo yifayar. לאסור מלכיכם בזיקים ונכבדיכם בחבלי ברזל, לעשות בהם משפט כתוב, הדר הוא לכל חסידיו. Hallelujah. Page 141. Hallelujah, 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 hail Bikodsho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Birkia Uzo, hallelujah, 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 big Urotav, hallelujah, hallelujah, Kirov, good law, hallelujah, 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 but take a shofar, hallelujah, hallelujah, benevel vechinor, hallelujah, 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 betof umachol, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'minim ve'ugav, hallelujah, 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 b'tzil tzalei shama, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'tzil tzalei teruah, kol aneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah, kol aneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah, kol aneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai mitzion, shulchan Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, said niflot levado, uvaruch shem kvodo le'olam, v'yimalek kvodo et kol haaretz, amen ve'amen. We rise 142. Vayivarech David et Adonai le'enei kol hakol vayomer David, Baruch atah Adonai Elohei Yisrael. Atahu Adonai Elohim asher b'charta v'Avram v'hotzeto me'ar kastim v'samta shemo Avraham u'matzato levavo ne'eman lefanecha v'charat imot habrit latet et eretz ha'knani achiti yamim. V'hayam b'kata yitlifnehem v'yabru b'toch hayam v'yabasha v'yetrud fehem yishlach tabib salo kamo even b'mayim azim. 143. Vayosha Adonai vayom hahu et Yisrael miad Mitzrayim vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim meit al svat hayam vayar Yisrael et hayad hagdola asher asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim vayir uham et Adonai v'yaminu b'Adonai uv Moshe avda az yashir Moshe uvenei Yisrael et hashira hazod l'Adonai vayomru le'mor ashira l'Adonai ki ga'oga sus v'rochva rama vayam ozi v'zimrat yav vayehi li lishua Ze'eli v'yan ve'hu Elohei aviva aroma menhu Adonai ish milchama Adonai shemo Markevot paro v'chelo yaharavayam Umivchar shalishavtu b'yam suf Talmud yachas yom Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Ki ladonai amlucha Moshe bagoyim v'alu Moshe bahar Tzion lishpot et haresav v'hayta ladonai amlucha v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You are welcome to be seated. We're on 145. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. We're on the bottom of 146. Nehalelcha unshabechacha unva'ercha unvarech et shem kodshecha kamor leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol karavai et shem kodsho. With that, we conclude our preliminaries that get us going this morning. I'll hand the Amud over to Rabbi Richards, who will guide us through Shachrit and Hallel. Yeah.
Ha'el betatzum hotuzecha agato bichvot shemecha Hagibor lanetzach vanor benorotecha Hamelech hayoshev al kisei ram benisa Shochen ad baharom bekadosh shemo V'chatuv raninu tzadikim baronai Laishurim nava tehila Befi yesharim titalal ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמחלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפאר שמך. שכן חובת קודשים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, ולקלס. על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך. Please rise, page 148. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו אל המלך. Berachot ve'odahot ve'ata ve'ad olam Baruch atah Adonai El melech ado batishbachot El odot adon niflaot Habochei b'shirei zimra Melech elchei ha'olamim. Page 150. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam Yotzer or u'brei choshech osei shalom u'varei et hakol. You may be seated. We continue in the middle of page 152. Hameir la'aretz v'ladorim alecha. El Baruch Yodea. Rami Meshadeh. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shavach ma'aseh yadecha ve'ameh re'or she'asiteh yafaruch hasela. Page 153. Titbarach Tzoreinu malkeinu v'go'aleinu. Shtabach Shemcha. Kulam Alvim, Kulam Berurim, Kulam Giborim, Kulam Osim Be'ma'avir Ratzon Konam, Kulam Potim Abim B'Kedushav Tahara, B'Shirav Zimra, Barchim Shavechim, Varim Umaritzim, Umakdishim, Umamlichim, Et Shem Ha'el HaMelech, Hagadol Gibor V'Hanora Kadosh Hu. וכולם מקבלים עליכם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה ונותנים רשות אל הזה להקדיש יוצא מלאכה דרך בשפה ברימת הקדושה כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים בהירה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו ואופנים בחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מן הסים ובצרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני, ממקומו, ברוך נמותיתנו למלך. המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית, אור חד כאמור לעושה אורים גדולים חסדו, אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהר להורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Turn to page 154 as we near the bottom of the page. We gather our tzitzit, the corners of our talit, in preparation to recite the Shema, as we'll sing together on page 154, Ahava Rabbah. Abba Rabba Avtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagedol Avitera Chamata Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avor Avotenu Shebat Chovecha Shebat Chovecha Avinu Malkeinu Vatelamdem Chokei Chaim Ken Techadenu Tlamdenu Avinu Avarachaman Hamerachem Rachem Aleinu V'ten belibenu lehavin ולהשכיל לשמוע ללמוד וללמד לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה והערננו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך ולא נבוש לעולם ועד ולא נבוש לעולם ועד כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום בארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועת אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלה. באמת להודות לך, או יחדך, או יחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. אל מלך נאמן, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והים שמות תשמע אשר לכם אתם. נותן לכם סנטון. הנה לכם. We join together in the second paragraph on page 156, and every time we say the word tzitzit, we kiss the corners of our talit as a reminder of all the commandments that we are given the opportunity to complete in this world. Second paragraph, page 156. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael, Yamarta alehem, ve'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfi bigdeihem ledorotam, v'nadnu al tzitzit, hakana petil techeled, v'haya lachem letzitzit, uritem oto, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר תנזונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ויציב נכון. 157, אמת. ודור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים, וכניסה נכון למלכותו ומנת תולד קיים, ארץ וערב חיים וקיימים. אמת. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יוצאנו צור ישועתנו, Putting matzenu me'elam shemecha in Elohim zolatecha Ezrat votenu atau me'elam Magdam Shia Chayim Dorum Olam Asher Ish Emet Emet Shia Mitzam Gatanim Page 158 Meichas Umayim Tzorichen Azor Chivich Moalim Rambins Hamashpim Tehillah el Elyon Baruch Marach Moshe Miriam B'nei Israel L'chanu shira b'simcha rabba V'yamru cholam Mi chamocha b'hilim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nohara tehilot Osefele Shira chadasha Shibechu gehulim Leshimcha asfatayam Yachad kolam hodu Ve'imlichu ve'amiru Adonai himloch le'olam va'ed. Please rise. Tzor Yisrael, Koma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechinu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go'aleinu, Adonai tzvahot shemho, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch et Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We don't have a minyan, but you can still do a silent Amidah. The special Amidah for festivals is on page 306. It continues through to page 314 or 13, I believe. And make sure to make the additions for Shavuot, okay? That's 306. Take a few moments for silent prayer and meditation, and we'll be back. If you're still praying the Amidah, feel free to continue. Otherwise, we turn to page 316 and rise, although all y'all are standing already, so go on, y'all. We rise, if you're sitting, for full Hallel, page 316. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likrot hallel. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Adonai. Shmurach me'atav Mikim me'afadam eshpot yarim hevyon lehoshivim nedivim im nedivei amo mashvivi akeret habayit em habanim smecha Alleluia B'tzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim Beit Yaakov me'amlohez Hayta Yehuda lekodsho Yisrael mamshelotam Hayam rav hayanos Hayarden yisov leachor Eharim rakedu chelim Gevahot kivnei tzon Malechayam Kitanus Hayarden Tisov leachor Eharim Tirkedu chelim Gevahot Kivnei tzon Milifanei Adon Choli haaretz Milifnei Elohai Yaakov Ahofei Atzor Agamayim Chalamish Lemain Homayim. Top of page 317. Lo lanu Adonai, lo lanu. Lama. Yisrael betach baronai es amavagin hamho Beit Aaron bitzcho baronai es amavagin hamho Yireh Adonai bitzcho baronai es amavagin hamho Adonai zecharanu yevarech Yevarech et Beit Yisrael, Yevarech et Beit Aaron, Yevarech Yireh Adonai, Haketanim im Hagedolim, Yosef Adonai Alechem, Alechem ve'abnechem, Beruchim atem l'Adonai, Oseh shamayim v'haaretz, Hashamayim shamayim l'Adonai, V'haaretz natan livnei Adam, Lo hametim yehalleluya, Ve'lo kol yordei duma, V'anachnu nevarech ya, Me'ata ve'ad olam, Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. Page 318. Ahavti ki yishma Adonai. Tzara ve'yakim. אתהלך לפני אדוני בארצות החיים, האמנתי כי אדבר, אני עניתי מאוד, אני אמרתי בחופשי, כל האדם כזה, מה אשיב לאדוני. Two lines above the arrow. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, ki ani avdecha. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, ki ani avdecha. Ani avdecha, ben hamatecha, ani avdecha. Ben hamatecha ni abdecha, ben hamatecha pitach lemoserai. Lecha esbach zevach totav shem Adonai hekra, nedarai ladonai, ashalem negnala lechol amo. Bechatzrot beit Adonai betochechi Yerushalayim. Hallelujah. Top of page 319. Hallelujah Adonai. Kol goyim shabcho, shabcho. Kol ha'omim ki gavar aleinu. Aleinu chasto v'emet Adonai le'olam hallelujah. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam. Ki le'olam chasto yomarna, yomarna, yomarna Yisrael. Ki le'olam, ki le'olam chasto yomruna, yomruna, yomruna beit Aaron. Ki le'olam, ki le'olam chasto yomruna, yomruna, yomruna yirei Adonai. Ki le'olam, ki le'olam chasto min hamitzar karatia. Anani v'merchavia min hamitzar karatia. Anani v'merchavia. Anani, Anani, Anani v'merchavia. Anani, Anani, Anani v'merchavia. Adonai li lo yirah Hashem. Page 320. Pitzcholi sha'arei tzedek avovam hodeyah. Pitzcholi sha'arei tzedek avovam hodeyah. Zeh hashal Adonai tzadikim yavovo. Zeh hashal Adonai tzadikim yavovo. Odecha ki anitani v'tehi li lishua. Odecha ki anitani v'tehi li lishua. Even ma'asu habonim hayta lerosh pina. Even ma'asu habonim הייתה לראש פינה מאת אדוני, הייתה זאת היא נפלאות בעינינו מאת אדוני, הייתה זאת היא נפלאות בעינינו, זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו, זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו, אנא אדוני הושיענה. אנא אדוני הושיענה. אנא אדוני הצליחנה. אנא אדוני הצליחנה. ברוך הבא בשם אדוני, ברכנוכם מבית אדוני. ברוך הבא בשם אדוני, ברכנוכם מבית אדוני. אל אדוני ויעל לנו, ישרו חג בבותים עד קרנות המזבח. אל אדוני ויעל לנו, ישרו חג בבותים עד קרנות המזבח. אלי אתה ויודך, אלוהי הרוממך. אלי אתה ויודך, אלוהי הרוממך. הודו לאדוני כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לאדוני כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. Page 321. Hallelujah. כי לך טוב להודות ושמך נאה לזמר, כי מעולם ועד עולם אתה אל. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל בתשבחות. We don't quite have, do we? No. Should we do the last two lines on 321? And then we'll figure it out from there. So the last two lines on page 321, we'll recite Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen.
Seated, you're stuck. We're still holding out hope, but we're just still shy. So we're going to take a moment to do a little bit of studying anyway. We would be doing this regardless, taking a break for Rabbi Richards has been davening for a little while, and we've been standing up for a little while. So if you want to grab a chumash, we'll do this more as a Torah study because we're few in number, but strong in spirit, right? Helene, are we strong today? Yeah, okay. So if you want to follow along, because I'll be referring to a few verses, we're going to be on page 436 is where you will find our Torah reading for today. So this morning, of course, we celebrate this first day of Shavuot, and appropriately, we study the section from the Torah concerned with the revelation at Sinai, this momentous event in our history during which we became a unified people, a community with a special covenant with God. And the commentators suggest that the text of the narrative itself, so the text that we're going to look at here, gives us a larger picture of this transformation that our people went through from a mass of individuals to a unified people. And I'll show you what I mean in a second here. So as the Israelites traveled to reach Mount Sinai, we find the following description. And if you look on 436, you'll see, right, on the third new moon, B'chodesh HaShlishi, let's say B'nai Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim, on the third new moon that they had gone forth from Egypt, on that very day, they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Verse 2, and if you look at verse 2, it says, Vayis'u Merifidim, Vayavo'u Midbar Sinai, Vayachanu Bamidbar, right? So, Vayis'u if you know your Hebrew, anyone know in their Hebrew, what is the U ending? Is it singular or plural? Plural. It's plural. It's a plural ending, right? So, vayisu merifidim, and they journeyed. So all of the Hebrew verbs in this part of the verse, vayisu, and they journeyed, vayavo'u, and they came, and vayachanu, and they camped, are written in the plural form. So it's a grammar lesson for the morning, right? So it's all in the plural form. Now, think about it, right? At this point, they're all running away from Egypt. They're all coming. They've been, traveling together. But they are all really kind of a mass of people. And the people were certainly hardly unified, certainly not spiritually. And commentators point out that the plural verb here suggests that the Israelites, in essence, had not yet learned what it meant to be a unified community or a nation. Right? So when they're saying everybody, you would expect to say the nation traveled, right? So the nation is traveling. So you would think that would be a singular family, right? The family is going to the grocery store together, right? So it's a singular. You would expect singular. But the language is in plural form. And so the commentators they say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. They were, or does it make sense? How does it make sense for us that this should be seen in a plural form? And it suggests again that for them, that they're not unified yet. The people have been journeying together. Yes, they've gone through this experience of crossing the Red Sea, of celebrating on the other side, of going forward, but they have not yet learned to be a people. And so but the same verse, if you look, you notice I stopped short. If you got midbar Sinai, v'yachanupa midbar, and the next words, vayichan sham Yisrael neged hahar. Vayichan. What it's missing? You don't hear the u, right? Vayichan sham Yisrael neged hahar. And Israel, vayichan sham Yisrael, and Israel encamped there, neged hahar, in front of, or adjacent, and basically in front of the mountain. So here comes this, in the same verse, we had all these other verbs that were in plural form, and now we got vayichan sham. We have this camped, oddly written in a singular form. All in one verse, within a few words of each other. There's not even a period in between them, right? In Tanchuma, which is a midrashic commentary on the book of Exodus, the rabbis state that this shift from the plural verbs to the singular verb indicates that the Israelites had undergone a transformation, right? This is the point. If you had to point to something, when did we become a nation? Well, the Tanchuma points to this verse right here, points to this piece of time, right? That they had undergone a transformation from the time that they traveled, they journeyed, they came, they camped, right? And now they encamped. Vayichan sham. So they got there, they went through this journey, and now suddenly, the verb indicates that the Israelites had gone through some kind of transformation. They had become of one heart and one mind and had peace amongst themselves, right? Before arriving, somebody ringing? Before arriving at Mount Sinai, what were they? They were this ragtag group of ex-slaves, of individuals who had journeyed through the wilderness, enduring these hardships and witnessing these amazing miracles, right? The crossing of the Red Sea, the 10 plagues prior to that. Now, as they arrived here at the foot of Mount Sinai, they're now prepared to become a consecrated people, one unified Goy Kadosh. And if you were here last night, we read some of those verses as we looked at it. A nation of priests, a holy people through a new covenant with God. So after Moses tells the Israelites they're about to receive the commandments from God, we see a parallel with the words. So if you look ahead just a few verses to verse 8, you have to turn the page to 438, you'll find the verse, Vaya'anu chol ha'am, and all of the people, Vaya'anu chol ha'am yachdav, vayirmru kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh. Kol ha'am yachdav. I know you hear the u ending, but this is all of the people answered yachdav, as one, saying, all that Adonai has spoken, we will do. So the Israelites answer, again, here is this these verbs being in the way, it seems like. But the Israelites answer yachdav. They answered as one as one people. All of the people together as one singular community declared their acceptance of the responsibilities of the mitzvot that God was about to give them. So it's important to note, and we're going to see this now that we have a minyan, thankfully, yay. We're going to hear it in the original with the scroll. We're going to note that the 10 Commandments are written in singular form. Right? Well, I think it reminds us that each of us is responsible as individuals, right? So if we see this language, it's in singular form, it's as though it's talking to each of us individually when we receive those 10 Commandments. But I think if we look at the perspective of Tanchuma, we understand the responsibilities that we have as a community, right? As a family. The family is going to the store, right? The singularness of that family. We are now together as a community. And while we receive Torah, each of us individually, and we have to accept Torah individually, and we have to take it in. Those of you here last night, again, we talked about the 70 faces of Torah, right? Each of us has to relate to what Torah is for each of us. So as we do that, at the same time, Tanchuma suggests that we have to look at it as a communal, right? As a community. As a community, we need to follow those mitzvot. We have to look at ourselves as a nation, as an extended family, who have to work together to see the gift of Torah is learned and practiced. And it's up to us to create that unified community, one that in essence goes forward with a single vision and with similar goals, if we're truly to be able to move forward through life with purpose and meaning. So while all of us count as individuals, if we're not creating our individual nation, we're not creating ourselves as a family, then we really are missing Torah as well. So as we study the Torah text, think about this juxtaposition, I think, of individual responsibility and the need to stand together with our community in the mission of making the world as it should be, because that's really what those commandments are about. It's being partners with God in the process of creation and making the world the way it needs to be. I think it's ironic as we're talking about this that we got our 10th person, right? Our 10th Jewish person walking into the room. Thank you, Debbie. As before, we're going, what do we do? We're short. We had 7, we had 8. Well, we're not counting. We had, whatever we had, 5 shekels, another 5 shekels, right? So we had close, we didn't. But here is an example of each of us as individuals can study the Torah, but in order to really study the Torah, in order to take out the Torah, in order to honor the Torah, we need our community together. We need our minyan. And in that way, we are now a minyan. We are a group of individuals. We are a group that becomes like an individual. And we represent everyone else. We represent, as a minyan, wherever there's a minyan here, wherever there's a minyan going on somewhere in the world, right? And here or in any other city in our country or in any other city in the world, each of those minyans represent all of the Jewish people. So keep that in mind, and when we get there, I'll give you where we're starting. We're actually going to start right where we just looked at. We're going to start and read 4 of the aliyot from this section of Yitro as we again reenact this acceptance, this receiving of Torah. But keep again the idea of this responsibility and community. And how do we do that in our world today? How do we create that? How do we get ourselves as one, even as though we are our own individuals? So we're going to begin the Torah service on page 322. And we'll need everyone's help today, certainly, to help out. We're going to have our 4 aliyot, and then we'll do our maftir. So we'll have 2 Torahs, and we'll do a little studying. So 322. Yeah. Either way, go for it.
En kamocha ba'elohim Adonai, ven kemaasecha, malchutecha malchut, kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai hoz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom, Avarachamim, etiva v'etzoncha, et Zion, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Kivecha levad batachnu, Melech Eram v'nisa Adon Olamim. Please rise as the ark is open. Page 325. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, Ore Romen Hashemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagedula, Hagevora, Hatziferet, Vehanetzach, Ve'ahod, Kicho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Kicho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Adonai Hamamlacha, Ve'amin ha'aseh lechol erosh Ramemu, Ramemu, Adonai
Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Le'adam raglav kadoshu,
Ramemu,
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 Ramemu, Adonai Eloheinu.
Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'arkodsho, Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
You may be seated. Yes, do. What we're doing. Playing around a little bit with our how we do our Torah readings. We're gonna make sure we're in sync. Okay, so just as I introduced the Torah reading, you'll find we're going to be this special Torah reading for Shavuot. Again, with the arrival of the people in the wilderness of Sinai, and we find God's charge to keep the covenant and a reminder of God's special care for the Israelites. So we're going to be in this first Aliyah, page 436, just where we were before, where we started, chapter 19, verse 1. And as we get to that fourth Aliyah, we will hit the 10 Commandments, and at that point, we will we'll give you the signal to rise, because we reenact that experience. So you will be able to see that. Jeff, do you mind being a second Gavai? You don't mind? All right. I didn't expect this. Wait, we got to call you up. Hold on a minute. Stay here. That's all I need to do. I'll do this first one. All right, come on over here. We'll get your name. V'yazor v'yagim v'yoshia v'chol chosim bo v'namar rameina kol havu godel Eloheinu nu chavod laTorah Talmud. Chaya Devorah bat
Eliezer Yisrael,
Eliezer Yisrael.
Leah.
V'Leah Rishon Baruch Shenatan Torah L'Amo Yisrael B'Kedushato V'atem Arbekim V'Adonai Leichem Chayim Kolchem Hayom. Okay, let's find it. Well, you're gonna have to help me make sure I stop when I need to stop. Okay. Just so you know, just in case. Yeah, I'm gonna follow with the four things are. So hold on 1 second. Let me just be there. Yep. So right here. There we go. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam voed.
Baruch atah Adonai. I'm lost. Reinu melech olam. El Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Akedah Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. B'chodesh hashlishi, letzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim b'yom hazeh ba'u midbar Sinai v'yisu me'refidim v'yapa'u midbar Sinai v'yachanu b'midbar v'yichan sham Yisrael neged ha'har u'Moshe ala el ha'Elohim v'yikra elav Adonai min ha'har lemor ko tomar leveit Yaakov v'taged lifnei Yisrael Atem ritem asher asiti l'Mitzrayim v'asa'elchem al kanfei nisharim v'aviechem elai v'ata im shamoa tishmeu b'koli u'shmartem et briti yitem li sigula mikol ha'amim ki li kol ha'aretz at v'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh ele hadvarim asher tedaber el b'nei Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Okay, wait a minute.
So we're going to be on the second aliyah, we're going to be on verse 7, and here's where we see this unification come to fruition, right? We're going to commit ourselves to upholding the special covenant connection that we have now with God. So verse 7 on 438. Read number 2. Come on up. Ta'amod, Shulamit, Nayo Bat, Avraham Basara Hashinit. Touch. Touch. Yes. Bracha.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvora.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvora leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayavo Moshe vayikra lezikneham vayasem lifnehem et kol hadvarim ha'ele asher tzivahu Adonai vayanu chol ha'am yachdav vayomru kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh vayashem Moshe divrei el Adonai Vayomer Adonai el Moshe hine anochi ba'elecha b'yav ha'anan Ba'avor yishma'am b'dabri mach v'gam b'cha yaminu le'olam v'yaged Moshe divrei el Adonai Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lech el ha'am v'yikidashtam hayom u'machar v'chibsu simlotam v'hayu nechonim l'yom hashlishi ki vayom hashlishi ered Adonai le'nei koham al har Sinai V'higbalta et ha'am saviv lemor yishamru lachem alot bahar ungoa b'katzehu kol hanogea bahar motz yumat lo tiga bo yad kisakol yisakelo yaro yare im behema im ish lo yichye.
Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashikoa, is that your first aliyah? Or have you done one before?
Technically, no.
Technically, no. Is it worth a shechianu? I think we should. Why not? If it's a technically no, then we're going to do it. So shechianu, because this is first. How about this? First time on Shavuot. Like that one? First time when we're reading the Ten Commandments section. How about that? I'll find any reason to say Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Mazel tov. I'll get the technically no part in a minute. I'll have to find out what to talk about what that meant. So good for you. Yeshkach. Yeah, we're going to pause for a Misha Berach for Cholim.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, אמותינו שרה רבקה רחב עליה, הוא יברך וירפא החולים. Alan Goldberg, Amber France, Ann Francis, Anna Silva, Arnold Gorelick, Avram Glazner, Bob Reynolds, Bob Schiffman, Bob Stewart, Carolyn Devon, David Siegel, Don Alexander, Debbie Danforth, Donna Link Strickland, Dr. Les Feldman, Elaine Munoz, Elna King, Esther Magyar, Gabriel Joseph Braun, Garney Griggs, George Geisen, Gerald Karsman, Ginger Middleman Sledge, Gregory Seelig, Grover Shockley, Iris Pacone, Jackie Geisen, Jeanette Cobb, Joseph Pacone, Judy Stewart, Kimberly Lang, Lily Williams, Louis Navis, Luann Horn, Maria Beck, Marion Braun, Mark Hermelin, Mia Castro, Nehemiah Levin, Patsy Friedler Cantor, Patty Pillay, Renee Anahosta Jr., Reuben Klein, Robert Cover, Robert Teplitz, Roselle Simon Lebo, Rosario Vasquez, Sarah Purcell, Sarah Ybarra, Sharon Abelo, Sharon Bowling, Sharon Hermelin, Steve Cohen, Tristan France, Victoria Castegi de Lara, Avashira Bat Chana Leah, Adam Ben Sara, Alicia Bas Devora, Elisa Bat Masha Meira, Ariel David Ben Sara, Arya Ben Ada, Pachmin Yoshua Ben Chana Batya, Bela Bat Sora, Baruch Meir Chaim Ben Leah, Hati Leah Bat Esther, Bela Bat Shira, Bela Bat Malka, Bela Bat Rivka, Beowulf Ben Esther, Binyamin Ben Chana, Rachael Bat Malka Esther, Chaim Ben Bela, Chana Bat Ruth, Chana Bat Yuda, Tranita Bat Miriam, Chaya Bat Minna, Daniel Ben Sara, Tobi Chaim Ben Tzipora, Eitan Ben Dina, Elisheva Bat Devora, Esther Rivka Bat Devora, Fagel Esther Bat Rachel, Fagi Riva Bat Basha, Fagel Ben Rachel, Fredel Bat Moshe, Hadassah Bat Rea Leah, Chana Sara Bat Basha, Hinda Bat Chava, Leah Rivka Bat Miriam, Leba Devora Bat Miriam, Malka Sima Bat Elka, Malka Bat Sara, Malka Bat Zev, Masha Bat Zismael, Meir Leah Bat Tzipora, Miriam Bat Bela, Miriam Bat Bracha, Moshe Ben Yetta, Moshe Ben Yisrael Bat Chaya, Moshe Katriel Ben Chana, Nachum Ben Tovia, Nachama Bat Yaakov, Noach Ben Dina, Pinchas Velvel Ben Leah, Rachel Bat Devora, Rafael Ben Wolf, Full Meir Ben Nachama, Reuven Ben Peretz, Reuven Shmuel Ben Sarah, Reuven Simcha Ben Miral, Rivka Rachel Bat Esther Razel, Rivka Bat Rosa, Shimon Ben Chana, Shlomo Ben Lazer, Shmuel Chaim Ben Yakova, Shoshana Bat Michal, Shoshana Bat Pearl, Tova Bat Sarah, Tzipora Bat Michal, Yaakov ben Nechama, Yudit ben Gitzel, Yudit Ruth bat Sarah, Yudit Golda bat Elka, Yisrael ben Sarah, Yoel ben Yosef, Yosef ben Ephraim, Pishal Halevi, Yosef ben Abraham Besara, Zev Shaul ben Chaya, Tzvia Miriam bat Abigail Batya. If you have additional names in need of healing, feel free to add them at this time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimelei Rachamim Aleichem L'Hachazikam U'Rapotam V'Yishach Lehem Meher Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh U'Refuat HaGuf V'Toch Sharach LaCholim V'Chazek Yedidei HaOskim B'Tzarech Yom Tov Hu Milizok Refuah Krovo Lavo Hashta Bagalav Izman Kariv V'Nomar Amen. Refuah Shlema, complete healing to all of those in need.
Yirmiyahu ben Abraham Avinu Hashlishit. We're going to be on the verse 14 on page 439, and this is an interesting one in here because verse 15 says specifically, right, be ready on the third day and don't go near a woman. So what does that text imply? Who are you talking to? Hands off, right? We shouldn't have sexual relations, certainly. But more importantly, if you're saying that, who are you saying it to? To the men. Thank you. So if you're saying that to the men, then it suggests that, only the men were standing there, only the men are receiving Torah. If you look at the note down on 15, very interesting note, according to God's instructions, all of the people, right? This is not excluded, this shouldn't be excluded. Women as well as men were present for the revelation at Sinai. This is actually a kind of Moses confusing the invitation by adding this prohibition in here. And so we're not to be thrown off and say, the women weren't around for this. No, everybody was there. Everybody got it. He sticks this in, and of course it, again, throws us off that it sounds like we're only talking that the men were the only ones there. And as the tradition suggests and shows, that this was actually, if you notice here, as in the incident of striking the rock of Meribah, he takes liberties in transmitting God's word. So our commentators like it to when he was told to speak to the rock, and what did Moses do instead? He struck the rock. Here, he was told to tell the people, go be holy, and he specifically, kind of narrowed it a little bit more than he should have, is the suggestion. But regardless of how we read it, and you could still read it that everybody was there, but he was specifically saying to the guys, listen guys, you're the ones who initiate stuff, don't go near, there's the women. And by import, I know, it maybe works or maybe doesn't work, but if you think about it, in Orthodoxy today, there's very often that's kind of, the instructions, even though everybody's receiving the mitzvot. So, in any case, you look at the note and you'll see that the purpose is that everyone was there, men and women, and presumably even the children. All of us receive Torah as we should have. So that's the import of this section. 439, we're going to be on verse 14. If I can find it again. It's by Yered, right? Okay, there's a few of them. That's why I can't find it. No. It's not around here or something. Yes. Thought I was farther down.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol chamin ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Am I in the right place? Right? Vayered Moshe. Okay. Amen. Vayered Moshe min ha'ar el ha'am. Vayikadesh et ha'am. Vayichipsu simlotam. Vayomer el ha'am. Hayu nechonim lishloshet yamim. Al tikshu el isha. Vayehi. Vayom hashlishi. Biyota boker. Vayehi. Kolot uvrakim ve'anan kaved al ha'ar v'kol shofar chazak me'od v'yecherad kol ha'am asher b'machaneh v'yotze Moshe et ha'am likrat ha'elohim min ha'machaneh v'yigatzvu b'tachtit ha'ar v'har Sinai ashan kulo mipnei asher yarad alav Adonai ba'esh v'ya'o ashano ka'eshen ha'kivshan Vayecherad kol ha'ar me'od, vayehi kol ha'shofar, holech v'chazak me'od, v'chazek me'od, Moshe yedaber v'ha'elohim ya'anenu v'kol.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם אתה בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Who's number 4? She's walking out on me. She's trying to get back up. So we're going to count her in the room. Okay? Or we can wait. Either one. I don't want to wait. You can wait. Do we want to wait? We probably better wait. Huh? Well, she's right out here. I think she can even hear us, so we can see her. All right, I'm counting. We're going to be doing Zoom minions. I think if we're here in the building right around the corner, I think we're okay. I'll do it that way. I'll read slow. All right, so we're over here, guys. Here we go. This is where we are going to hear the recitation of the 10 Commandments. Hold on, I got to call you up. Sorry. Beginning with the chapter 20, verse 1 at the bottom. That's when we'll rise. So right before, we'll give you the signal to rise, and we will receive Torah anew. So let's call you guys up. Maybe we'll wait a minute till she comes back. So, Ya'amdu. We'll get you going. Elisha ben Abraham Basara, Vied Deborah bat Abraham Basara, Rebeat. All right. wait, guys? Just wait. Should we wait? I think we'll give her a minute. All right, Ben, you have any, Rabbi Ben's got some interesting midrash in his head he's going to share, right? Come on, give us something.
Putting somebody on the spot.
You're a rabbi. You could pull it out of the back pocket, can't you? You always do.
Dan, what do we want to talk about?
I don't know. What would you like to talk about?
So with the mountain being lifted up over their heads, are we supposed to completely view that as something negative?
Good question. It sounds pretty negative. Last night we talked about the midrash of that there were two midrashim. One was, yeah, give it to us, we'll take it, without even asking what's in it. The other one is that we accepted Torah only after the mountain was held over our heads. And we look up and go, oh, sure, we'll take it, right? So it's whether it's force or that's what commandment, right, in a sense, or whether it's by choice. So
because if the whole ceremony is the purpose of the wedding, could God have been using this mountain like a chuppah?
oh, you're gonna go get fun on me there. Not according to the midrash. The midrash, it's a scary experience. The midrash, it's fear. It's awe. It's
Without getting beat up, isn't marriage?
a scary experience. I don't know. Melissa, tell us.
Wink twice.
Well, actually, I've heard it said that when a woman gives birth, there's always the possibility of death.
Right.
So yeah, it should be a fearful thing.
Right.
You can't treat it lightly.
Yeah. I've never heard that with the mountain being a chuppah, but you could certainly do it. You just have to deal with the import of the mountain over the people, at least from reading the midrash itself, is that it was a sense of awe and fear, and it was a sense of we better do it or else kind of thing. So it's contrasting to the willingly, yeah, we'll take it, whatever it is. We don't even want to know what it is. We'll just take it. So it's in contrast to that. So it's hard to if you put those two together, it's hard to reimagine that midrash being a chuppah, and it's nice, and it's even though it's representing struggles, right? But it literally was the mountain over the head, and if we don't do it, so because the paradigm is responsibility or mitzvah or commandment, we're commanded versus what we feel like we want to do personally. So
because once you get married, there's certain commandments, right?
yeah.
You shall not go somewhere else.
Take out the trash.
There's that.
That's a good one, yeah.
Right? But you shall not be, that's what everyone other, right? Don't
Right.
have any other gods before me, right? Or there is this mountain. But at the
think
same
it's deep part of being
time,
scared
like God's
straight.
already been showing off with the 10 plagues, right? So it's sort of like how guys tend to show off in front of the woman they want, right? All the push-ups they can do, handstands, back foot, whatever, picking up a car.
Well, and perhaps that's also why that's another way to read that sentence, don't go near a woman. And that's, if you look at it in the context of a wedding, husband shouldn't go near, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, that was it. I mean, for this, the context.
Right.
I mean, you could read it in there, but it's really a purity, right? It's a purity thing. Yeah, it's you can't come and accept Torah as you are. If you're clouded with other stuff around you and or impure. You're considered impure when you had emissions and things like that. So you don't do any of that because then you're in a state of impurity. So it's not even about spiritual focus. It's literally about, for the Torah, I would argue it's literally about purity, because we know most of the Leviticus is all about, how do you be a holy nation? Well, you got to remain pure, right? You can't come to those things. So, all right. So we're gonna we're gonna be on. Where are we again? 19.
20.
440 verse 20. We're going to be on 440 verse 20 of Vayeret. So here you guys go. You want to touch this bracha thing?
Now the blessing.
Yep.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaBorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'kavanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayered Adonai al Har Sinai al Rosh Hahar. Vayikra Adonai el Moshe el Rosh Hahar. Vayal Moshe. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe. Reid ha'ed ba'am. Pen yehersu el Adonai lirot. V'nafal mimenu rab. V'gam al-kohanim anigashim el Adonai yitkadashu. Pen yifrotz bahem Adonai. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai lo yuchal ha'am la'alot al Har Sinai ki ata ha'idota banu lemor hagbelet ha'har v'kidashto. Vayomer elav Adonai lech red v'alita ata v'aharonimach v'hakohanim v'ha'am al yehersu la'alot el Adonai pen yifratz ba'am. Vayered Moshe el Ham, Vayomer Alehem. We rise. Vayidaber Elohim et kol hadvarim ha'ele lemor. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mi'beit avadim lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Lo taseh lecha fesel v'chol temunah asher b'shamayim mimal v'asher ba'aretz mitachat v'asher b'mayim mitachat la'aretz lo tishtachaveh lahem v'lo te'avdehem ki anochi Adonai Elohecha Elkanah poked avot avanim Al shileshim v'al ribeim l'sonai v'yosech chesed la'alafim lo havai u'shomrei mitzvotai lo tisat shem Adonai Elohecha lashav ki lo yinakeh Adonai et asher yisad shemo lashav zachor et yom HaShabbat lechadsho sheshet yomim tavod v'asita kol melachtecha v'yom hashvi'i Shabbat l'Adonai Elohecha lo taseh v'chol melecha ta'vincha v'techa v'yavdecha v'yamatecha v'hemtecha v'gercha asher b'shavrecha ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et ha'aretz et hayam v'et kol asher bam v'yanach v'yom hashvi'i al ken Beirach Adonai et Yom HaShabbat vayikadshehu kaved et avicha v'et imecha lema'an ya'arichon yamecha al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach lo tirtzach lo tin'af lo tignov lo ta'anev re'acha ed shaker Lo tachmod beit re'echa, lo tachmod eshet re'echa, ve'avdo v'amato v'shoro v'chamoro v'chol asher l're'echa. Yeah. Touch this.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'kayolam natan b'tokinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We pause as we rise once again. Sorry, could have had you still standing. So we put the second Sefer Torah down. Recite Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba v'yamad yivrak edutei v'yadlik malchutei v'chayechonu v'yamecha l'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala u'bizman karim v'yimeru amen Yeheshmei v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei d'Kudisha b'richu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dami hiron b'yallah v'imeru amen. We rise for the tying up of the Sefer Torah.
This one. You may be seated. That Torah had the funkiest gimmels I have ever seen. Does it?
Yeah, they were really weird. Like they were small and kind of like I don't know. It was an interesting. Whoever the Sofer was had a really interesting way of writing certain letters, and that gimel. I thought maybe it was just this one they were trying to fit in somewhere, but then I looked and they're all like that. So it was a very interesting. I'd like to know more about that Torah and where it comes from because it was a interesting one. All right, so we're going to read this from the second Sefer Torah. We're going to read from a little bit from Bamidbar. We're going to read from Pinchas, which is the traditional reading, chapter 28 of Pinchas, verse 26. It's 932 in your Chumash, and as you might expect, it outlines the offerings of the first fruits that are brought to the sanctuary in celebration of the harvest on Shavuot. So again, 932. I'll find it up here. I'm going to be off trope, I can tell you. I might have to correct a word or two. But we're on, again, verse 26 as we, thank you, Phil. As we call up our mock here. Ya'amod, Yaakov Meir, Ben Shmuel Yosef, HaKohen, Vitzipora HaMaftir. I'm going to memorize it one day for you. All right.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaBarak. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Uv'yom habikurim v'hakrivchem mincha chadasha l'Adonai v'shavuotechem mikra kodesh yeh lachem kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu v'hikraftem olah l'reach nichoach l'Adonai karim b'nei bakar shnayim ayil echad shiva kvasim b'nei shana Umin chatam solet b'lulav hashamen shlosha esronim lapar ha'echad shnei esronim la'ayil ha'echad Yisaron la'keves ha'echad l'shivat ha'kvasim Ze'irizim echad l'chaper aleichem Milvad Allah ha'tatamid umin chatam ta'asu t'mimim yihiyu lachem v'nizkehem
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We rise once again to tie up the second Sefer Torah. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe Lifnei b'nei Yisrael. Wait, 1 second. Ki Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Torah, I got it. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. May be seated.
Thank you.
The Haftarah for this first day of Shavuot is taken from the words of the prophet Ezekiel. And he shares a very different vision of Revelation. Here the prophet, this is this famous Haftarah, by the way. I love this Haftarah when we get to it every year because it's one of those things where you go, what was Ezekiel on? Like, what was he having fun with in a back room somewhere? He sees this, he has this vision. It's an interesting, it's kind of a psychedelic experience, if you will. But here he sees a chariot carrying this divine presence, seen perhaps as a symbol of the impending destruction of Jerusalem and the removal of both the people and the presence of God from the holy city. We are reminded at the conclusion of the Haftarah, though, that God's presence is really ever present. So even though we see this, that God's presence may have gone away, we recognize that at the end, of course, as most Haftarot do, they uplift us at the end, and that God's presence is never really gone, and it's our task to search for God's presence, to struggle with God and finding our own connection to the eternal. So it's a very neat Haftarah to follow along. I encourage you to look through it as Jeff reads it, because it's kind of a cool one. 1321 in your Chumash. 1321, way in the back.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'yim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Abocher b'Torah Moshe Avdo u'Yisrael Amo u'b'bnei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Vayehi b'shloshim shana v'arbihi b'chamisha lachodesh v'ani b'toch hagolah al nechar kevar niftechu hashamayim va'ere marot Elohim v'chamisha lachodesh hi hashana hachamishit legalut hamelech yoyachin hayo haya devar Adonai el Yechezkel ben Buzi hakohen be'eretz kasdim al nahar kevar v'tehi alav sham yad Adonai va'ere V'hinei ruach se'ara ba'amin hatzafon anan gadol ve'esh mitlakachat v'nogalo saviv u'mitocha ke'ein ha'chashmal mitoch ha'esh u'mitocha demut arba hayom V'zeh marehel demut adam lahina ve'arba afanim la'echat ve'arba chenafayim le'achat lahem ve'raglehem regel yeshara ve'cha raglehem kechaf regel egel ve'no tzitzim ke'ein nechoshet kalah Videi Adam מתחת כנפיהם על ארבעת ריביהם, ופניהם וכנפיהם לארבעתם. חברות אישה אל אחותה כנפיהם, לא יישאו בלכתן איש, אל עבר פניו ילכו. ודמות פניהם פני אדם, ופני אריה על הימים לארבעתם, ופני שור מחשמאל לארבעתן, ופני נשר לארבעתן, ובניהם וכנפיהם פרודות מלמעלה לאיש. שתיים חברות איש, ושתיים מכסות את גוויותיהנה, ואיש אל עבר פניו ילכו, אל אשר יהיה שם הרוח ללכת ילכו, לא יישאו בלכתן. ודמות החיות מראיהם כהגלי אש, בוערות כמראה הלפידים. היא מתהלכת בין החיות ונוגה לאש, ומן האש יוצא ברק. והחיות רצו ושוב כמראה הבזק, וערך החיות והנה אופן אחד בארץ, עצה החיות לארבעת פניו. מראה אופנים מעשיהם כעין תרשיש, ודמות אחד לארבעתן, ומראיהם ומעשיהם כאשר יהיה האופן בתוך האופן. על ארבעת ריביהם בלכתם ילכו, לא יישאו בלכתן. וגביהן וגובה להם וירא להם, וגבותם מלאות עיניים סביב ארבעתן. ולכת החיות ילכו האופנים אצלם, והינשא החיות מהארץ, ינשאו האופנים על אשר יהיה שם הרוח ללכת ילכו, שם הרוח ללכת האופנים ינשאו לעומתם, כי רוח החיה באופנים. בלכתם ילכו ובעומדם יעמודו, וכי נשאם מעל הארץ. ינשאו האופנים לעומתם, כי רוח החיה באופנים. ודמות על ראשי החיה רקיע, כעין הקרח הנורא, נטוי על ראשיהם מלמעלה. ותחת הרקיע כנפיהם ישרות, אישה אל אחותה לאיש. שתיים מכסות להנה ולאיש. שתיים מכסות להנה את גוויותיהם. ואשמע את כל כנפיהם ככל מים רבים, ככל שדי בלכתם, כל המולה ככל מחנה, בעומדם תרפנה כנפיהן. ויהי כל מעל לרקיע אשר על ראשם, בעומדם תרפנה כנפיהן. וממעל הרקיע אשר על ראשם, כמראה אבן ספיר דמות כיסא, ועל דמות הכיסא דמות כמראה אדם עלה מלמעלה. Va'erekein hashmal. Kemare shpela saviv. Mimare motna umala. Umimare motna ulmata. Ra'iti kemare eish. Venogalo saviv. Kemare akeshet asher. Yeve anan beyom hageshem kein mare hanoga saviv mare demu kivod Adonai va'erev epol alpanai va'eshma kol midaber v'tisa eini ruach va'eshma harai kol ra'ash gadol Baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot hayol ha'ne'eman haomer v'yoseh hamdaber kayem Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'davar echad midvarecha achor lo yashuv rekam ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah Baruch atah Adonai hayol ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav rachem al Tzion ki hi beit chayinu v'la'alu vat nefesh toshia b'mehera v'yameinu Baruch atah Adonai, v'sameach Tzion bevaneha, samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha, u'malchut beit David meshichecha, b'mehera yavo v'yagel libenu, al kiso lo yesh zar v'lo yinchalu ol achirim et kevodo, ki v'shem kodecha nishbat alo, shelo yibei nero le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David, ala Torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al ha'nevi'im, ve'al yom hag ha'shavuot hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, lesason ol simcha, lechavod ol tifaret, al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, and barchim otah, yiparashim ka befi kol chai tami le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazemanim.
That had some fun, funky tropes in there. Those are fun to sing. That's our master trope now. Sorry, I'm just pouring for anticipation of Kiddush in a minute. We're going to move forward into our closing part of our Torah service. You'll find Ashrei. I don't know what page it's on.
339.
Thank you. 339.
All right.
339, you'll find Ashrei as we close out Torah service.
Great. Ashrei Ashrei Veitecha Yedado Chased
Ashrei Shekacha Ashrei Shalom.
Rami Mechna Lahem Shachim Vechayim Shachal Gebron Lahem Kivod Zuzon Technical Kivod Lahem Machotecha Machot Stechet Yadecha Sonia Tehilat Adonai Daber Pivi L'Reko Basar Shem Kodesh Olam Va'ed V'anach Mevarech Yamei Taved Olam Alleluia. Please rise as we'll return our Sefer Torahs to the ark.
No, that's it. I'll carry the handle. Frankly, I think lighter. 340.
Yehatelu et Shem Adonai Ki nizgav Shemo levado Odo ha'eretz V'shamayim V'yarem keren le'amo Tila lecho Asitab Livnei Yisrael Am Kirova. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Mihu ze melech hakavod, Naitzvot melech hakavod, Selah. Page 342. Uvnucha yamar, Shabbat Adonai. Ki lekach tov natati lachem Torati al tazovu et chaim hi lamachazikim ba vetamchea me'ushar deracheha darcheinoam v'chol hetivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kekedem.
As the Aron HaKodesh is closed, we remain standing for our Musaf service, brief Musaf service 342. You'll find Chatzi Kaddish as we daven Musaf. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba v'yalmad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala uv'yizmahan kariv v'yimeru amen yaheshmei Rabba mevorach le'olam olol me'ol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran v'yalma limeru amen. We begin the Amidah together, page 343. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitehilate Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konehei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, Umevigo Elif Nevenehem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Metimata Rav Lehoshia Morid hatal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye meitim berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, umido mehelah, Melech meimit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanat al hachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hameitim. 345. All right, Naritzecha v'nakdishecha kesod siach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha b'kodesh kakahatuv al yad nevi'echa v'kara ze'el zeviyamar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzivaot Meloch ol haaretz Kivodo 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 Mahalei Olam Mishartav Shoalim Zelazeh Kivodo Mahalei Olam Mishartav Shoalim Zelazeh Aye, 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 Mekom Kevodo Aye, 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 Mekom Kevodo Lumatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Mimkomo hu yifen berachamim v'yachonam ham yachadim shemo erev avoker b'chol yom tamid erev avoker b'chol yom tamid pamayim b'ahava shema omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Eloheinu Avinu Malkeinu Moshienu Vehu Yashmienu Berachamav Shehinit Berachamav Shehinit Le'enei Kol Chai Vehu Yashmienu Berachamav Shehinit Berachamav Shehinit Le'enei Kol Chai Leot Lachem Le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Ahadir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shemcha B'chol Ha'aretz V'haya Adonai L'melech Kol Ha'aretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad Uvdivrei Kodshecha Katuv Lemor Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Tzidon Hallelujah Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Tzion L'dor V'ador Hallelujah L'dor V'ador Nagid Lecha U'netzach Netzachim Kedushatcha Nakdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamush Le'olam Va'ed Ki El Melech Gadol V'Kadosh Ata Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh Chatanu Mikol Hamim Et Yom Chag HaShavuot Hazeh Zman Yetziat Mitzrayim. We're going to wait for our minion to come back. Oseh shalom bimromav, yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We turn back to page 203. 203, there you'll find Kaddish Shalem. Yitkadav yitkadash shemei rabba v'yalma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayechon v'imechon v'chayei d'chol Yisrael ba'agalav izman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olal me'ol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitshma minaseh v'yitadar v'yitalal shemei kodesha v'rechu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imeru amen. Titkapal toloton uva uton dechol Yisrael kodam avahon v'shemaya v'imeru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Oseh shalom yimroma v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'imeru amen. Page 204, you'll find En Keloheinu. En Keloheinu, En Kadoneinu, En Kimolkeinu, En Kemoshienu, Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adoneinu, Mich Emolkeinu, Mich Moshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adoneinu, Nodel Emolkeinu, Nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shehiktiru, Avohoteinu, Lefanecha Eketoret Hasamim. We rise for Aleinu 205. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kugoye haratzot, vela asamanu kamishbechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gahara leinu kechohamonam, v'anachnu korim. Umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu she'unot shamayim v'yoser haaretz umoshav yikaro b'shamayim imal ushchinatu zo v'gavhei merahomim hu Eloheinu Einod Emet Malkeinu Efesulato Kakatu B'Torato V'yadata hayom V'hashevota Elevavecha Ki Adonai Hu HaElohim B'Shamayim Imal V'yal haaretz Mita כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. May be seated if you wish. Page 207, you'll find Kaddish Tom, our Mourner's Kaddish, and as we have been doing, we continue to extend our condolences to Mark Samuels on the death of his mother Miriam Shlavsky, and certainly to Kathy O'Neill on the death of her mother Margaret Peg O'Neill. We also extend our hugs of support to Rhonda Gorinsky and the Gorinsky family on the death of Ronnie Radcliffe, Rhonda's father, and to Alan Rosenstein in our community, Lisa, the death of Lisa Starr Rosenstein as well. So we keep those in mind. We also mention the names of those as yortzites occur today and the week that is continuing. Sonia Belinsky, Edna Borenstein, Woodrow Frankel, Benet Harris, Edna J. Saya, Beatrice Casson, Ruth Krakow, Thomas Levine, Lillian Levine, Donald Miner, May Moskowitz, Paula Platt, Felix Rafe, Lesia Rosen, Blanca Charlak, Leo Schwartz, Florence Strelke, and Abraham Williams. If there's any names I did not recite, you're welcome to add them at this moment. As those reciting Mourner's Kaddish, you'll find it on page 207. 207. Those reciting will rise and join with me. Yit Kadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Bialma divrach yirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beitz Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevarach leolam ulamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. You are welcome to be seated. Just as we prepare to end, I want to thank everyone for being here this morning and for helping us to make a minyan. You all won the lottery ticket today. That's how I see it. So we won the lottery with you here. So thank you for helping to make a minyan. I know it was tight and in and out and bathroom breaks and coming in and whatever, but we made it and we did it and we studied some Torah and we davened, and thank you for helping to do that. If you're watching from afar, we need you here in the building to help us make a minyan. So come tomorrow. We will have our festival morning service tomorrow, and we will recite Yizkor. If we don't have a minyan, we will not do Kaddish, of course, but we can still write the Yizkor prayers, some of them anyway, some of the poetry. But we hope that we can get our minyan here in the building. Tomorrow, 9:15, we'll start. And depending on what we have, Yizkor will be probably sometime after 10:15. Again, it depends on what we get our minyan and how much we daven prior to that. So we hope we can, again, do our full Yizkor service. And also, we'll probably take a few minutes to look at the book of Ruth tomorrow. And if you are coming back or anytime, there is also some PU team, there's some poetry in the back that connected to Shavuot. So we might try to take a look at that at some point as well. We'll see how it goes. But please help come make a minyan tomorrow. Thank you again for all of you coming today. Phil, thanks for manning the back. We appreciate it very much. And Jeff for helping out with Haftarah, as always, beautiful. And all of you for making the minyan and having aliyot and making sure we could do what we did today. So with that, we are going to end with Adon Olam, but I hope that you will just stay around for a moment. I've poured some grape juice for all of us, so we can pass out our grape juice cups, and we will do a very short kiddush. There's not much to it on a Shavuot, on a festival, but we'll do that together as we lift a cup of grape juice, in this case, a little sweetness for the holiday. So page 211, if you'll join with me as we conclude. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa b'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado Yimloch nara, vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yiyeh betifara, vehu yiyeh betifara, vehu echad v'ein sheni leham shilo lehach bira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo ha'oz v'ha'misra, velo ha'oz v'ha'misra, vehu eli v'chai goli v'tzor chevli, bi'et tzara, vehu nisi umanosli, Menat kosi b'yom ekra, menat kosi b'yom ekra, be'yado afkid ruchi, b'yetin shan, ve'yira, ve'im ruchi, nevi'ati, Adonai li velo ira, Adonai li velo ira. Chag Sameach, good Yontiv. If you'll turn back to page 81, I will hand out a few little cups, and we will do our Kiddush together.
Ma'am, this is for you.
Just hand some. That's great juice.
Not tequila,
Not tequila.
but look.
Is it tequila?
Nice. Oh, thank you, man. Oops. Do you want one more, Rabbi? Rabbis. Okay. Okay. Good. Uh-oh. Rabbonim? Rabbonim.
So we join together. It's very short. It's one verse, and then Bari Priyagafen. Vayedaber Moshe et Moadei Adonai el bnei Yisrael. Savri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen. Fine. Yashikoah.
Very good.
Shkoch to you all. Thank you again. You lifted my spirits with me.
Very good day.
Very
Here,
sweet.
hopefully, if you can come back tomorrow, do it. If not, thank you for being here. And anyone watching from afar, come back tomorrow, please.
Yes.
I take care of the
Like to-
Thank you.
dirty cups.
We'll have a meeting tomorrow.
You will? Because of Yisker? Hope so. We'll see. I don't know. Right, I know that. No, don't.
I know.
Never problem. You're here all the time.
I
You're doing your
try.
thing.
So remember I told you, turns out I'm going to be traveling on the 4th of June, 38th of June.
So you're touring.
So I rewrite.
Okay.
I'm so, yeah. So I'll take a different
gone
one.
too.
I'll take a different one.
I'm gone too,
I know,
but
I know.
I'll give it
And
to
I'll
you
make
wherever.
sure, okay. I'll make sure that we have full covering, but it looks like that's, yeah, I found out yesterday, and then we'll talk about planning for meetings, whether it's
Yeah,
end of May or June after we come back, or both.
yeah, well, it's gonna have to be, I mean, I only have next weekend and I'm gone, so.
Right.
But we really do need to meet, we really need to figure out what we're doing.
Right, so right, well, we're having a further meeting Wednesday, so, if I can get her, I've got some other things going on too. In terms of working a few other things, but I will try to get one thing out to maybe get I'll look at dates and send something to you, Craig, Ricky, Rabbi Dan, and whoever else is, Jamal, and as soon as I can, whether it be, late May or early June after we go back, whichever works for both, and then we'll meet as many times as we need to, or have subcommittees.
I'm not worried about us, I'm worried about me if they talk to COVID about what we do for the holidays, because I have no clue.
Well,
I don't know how we're just gonna have everybody.
so my feeling is, so the quick answer is
then they say we did accept the Torah, or we kind of vested. So like at some point, both God and the church said, you know what, a relationship that starts under abuse is not great. But we've gotten past that point. We're both really sorry about how we started. Now we kind of like that's I see it as God through the whole thing, like Jewish people kind of stuff. God also kind of stuff. Like they both are feeling like I've never had a nation before, so I just get rid of it. It's like doesn't listen to me one time. God, no. We could care taking, we have to give patience and stuff. Then the people, of course, we don't care. But I see God growing through the process. Right? Like a parent. Like a first time parent doesn't know what he or she is doing. Generally, we write the things that are relevant to our lives. Right? We probably also struggle as a parent.